Know thyself. Socrates. What if a wild dog broke into your house, tore up your clothes, ate all your food, and even peed on your $10,000 Moroccan carpet? You walk in and find absolute chaos. What would you do? Would you call the police and demand that the dog be thrown in jail? Sounds ridiculous, right? But why? Why wouldn't we hold animals legally accountable the way we do with humans? It's because of free will. The very foundation of our legal and moral systems is built on the idea that humans have the capacity to choose between right and wrong and should therefore be held responsible for their actions. This is what we believe makes us human. But what if that belief is an illusion? What if the very thing we cling to, this sense of control, is actually what stands between us and true peace, understanding, and compassion? What if letting go of free will doesn't make us less human, but more? To explore this, let's go back in time to one of the most well-known medical cases in history. On September 13th, 1848, a 25-year-old railroad foreman named Phineas Gage was in an accident that would forever change how we view the human mind. A freak explosion drove a 3-foot-long, 13-pound iron rod straight through his skull, entering through his cheek and exiting through the top of his head. Shockingly, he survived and stayed conscious through it all. He lived another 12 years. But his friends said something strange. They said Gage was no longer Gage. He became angry, impulsive, vulgar, totally different from the quiet, respectful, hardworking man they once knew. Physically, he was fine, but mentally, he was a different person. So we ask, who was to blame? Was it Gage or was it the rod? Most would agree it was the rod, the brain injury. We're quick to show compassion, understanding that his behavior had a physical cause. But why do we only show this compassion in obvious cases like his? When it comes to a criminal, a violent person, or someone who's hurt us, we immediately turn to judgment. We forget to ask, what was their rod? What trauma? What upbringing? What brain chemistry? How did this person become this way? Because the truth is, every choice we make is shaped by something that came before. From what we ate today, to our childhood, to what our ancestors endured. Let's take a powerful example, hungry judges. In 2011, a study found that parole judges were far more likely to grant parole right after lunch and almost never granted it right before a meal. A hungry judge equals jail time. Why? Because the frontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for empathy and sound judgment, requires a lot of energy. And when blood sugar drops, so does its function. It's the same part of the brain that was destroyed in Gage's accident. And it's not just hunger or injury that shapes behavior. It's our childhood, our parents' health, even our ancestors' way of life. Take collectivist cultures, like Southeast Asian rice farmers, where community matters more than individuality. Mothers respond quickly to crying babies, shaping secure, emotionally stable children. Or consider honor cultures, descended from nomads who had to fiercely protect their herds. That need for survival turned into generations of inherited aggression. I come from one of those cultures, and I've seen how violence can be passed down like a family recipe. Even religion is shaped by geography. Rainforests give rise to polytheism, deserts to monotheism. Everything around us, seen and unseen, is molding who we become. So what does this mean for responsibility? If we didn't choose our biology or our environment, what exactly are we responsible for? Let's flip the question. Imagine your child wakes up sick. Do you punish them? Of course not. You care for them. You keep them home. You show love. What if we treated criminals the same way? Most prisons are centers of punishment and pain. Abuse is rampant. Suicide is common, but not in Cyprus. In a radical shift, one prison changed its entire approach, from punishment to compassion. Prison guards were trained to see inmates as human beings. They stopped abusing. They listened. They offered coffee during breakdowns. Reoffending rates dropped from 65% to under 15%, the lowest in the world. Why? Because love, too, is an input. And when love enters a broken brain, new outputs, new behaviors can emerge. Still, some people fear that losing belief in free will leads to apathy. If I'm not in control, why do anything at all? But that misses the point. Even watching this right now is a new experience, an input. That input will shape future choices. You might respond differently to your child, or judge someone less harshly, or speak more gently. That is change. That is power. You may not control your genetics or your past, but you can shape the inputs your brain receives now. That awareness, that's responsibility. Of course, in some cases, like severe psychopathy or schizophrenia, the forces are too strong. But should we punish these people as if they had full agency? Should we treat them like animals? No, because we're the lucky ones. If you're watching this, you likely have shelter, food, internet access, and a functioning brain that can follow complex ideas. That's grace. That's luck. That's something to be grateful for. Gratitude activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It literally calms your body, slows your heart rate, reduces stress. So ask yourself, how lucky are you to be here, to help others, to feel deeply, to understand something most people never even question? The more you let go of pride, praise, blame, or shame, the more you step into humility, the more you align with compassion, and the more your heart opens to divine love, love that does not need to forgive because it never blamed in the first place. As Jesus said, "If anyone wants to follow me, let them deny themselves and take up their cross." To deny yourself is to deny the illusion of control, to surrender to something greater, to finally be at peace. So when people ask me, how do you live without believing in free will? I say, I don't need to cope. I no longer suffer the way I used to. I simply live, observing, loving, moving forward. I do not take anything personally. I am free. I am a free human being, without free will. Everything changes once we identify with being the witness to the story, instead of the actor in it.